welcome back to On the Fly Dragonfly. It's your girl, Quirky Girl Georgia, and today we are going to be drawing a Purr-maid. And if any of you have a question about what that is a cat combined with a mermaid. So today I'd like to use some supplies that you can find around the house. You can find at Michael's, or you can even find at the dollar store. So first up are these sequins, which you can find at the dollar store. I got mine at Dollar Tree, and I felt like they had a pretty good selection, so we may use some of the big ones combined with the small ones. We've got our Sharpie, we've got our HB pencil, and we've got our Crayola Twistables, along with our Crayola Washable Watercolors. And I will also be using these Artist Loft fine line pens from Michael's. And if you don't have a Michael's, you can also go to michaels.com and find some of the supplies there, which I find pretty helpful, especially if you live out in the country. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna draw a circle for our head. I'm going to start out with some basic shapes so that you kind of get the groundwork of what we're doing. Sort of like what we did on our last video where we drew Kamala Khan from Marvel Comics. So this is going to be a very simplistic sort of catfish drawing. Otherwise, it's just going to be one of those things where if we make it too complicated, then it kind of loses the funness of the piece. All right. Hopefully you can see that. And then we're going to draw our little cat ears here. So we're going to draw 2 triangles. Okay. All right. And then here we are going to draw the body of the cat. And I would kind of like to have our cat kind of curving around this way. So we're going to draw this thing that kind of looks like a cucumber or a weird pickle, something like that. I will make that just a little bit darker so you can see there on your screens. Okay. And then I kind of want to have its tail kind of come up and wrap around. So I'm going to kind of do this. Kind of connect those two. Kind of have that come around down here. So that's part of the tail. And then we're going to kind of draw a little tail going off over here. Kind of want to have a forked tail, kind of like how some fish have. So right now it looks like 2 completely different animals attached at the tummy. So we're gonna liven this up a little bit where we've kind of got some arms for our cat. And again, we're just gonna draw some really simple shapes, and you'll see why after a bit. Right. So you kind of get the feel of what's going on. All right, so we can do a little bit of work here now with our face. We're going to draw like a tiny triangle for the nose, but I'm going to round out these edges because if you look at a cat's nose, they're kind of rounded. I'm going to draw a line there, draw a line there. All right, and then here's the difficult part. You can either draw cartoon eyes, or you can try to draw them a little bit more like a kitten, and we'll kind of do a little bit of a, that's kind of like a cross between the two. And we can make adjustments along the way too. But cats typically have these almond eyes, I like to call them. Okay. And we're going to draw this part kind of coming down here. Draw a nose line right there, a little part of the upper lip of the cat. Alrighty. And I don't want to do the whiskers just yet. We'll do those after we've gotten everything painted. So I kind of want our cat to have the little slits in the eyes that most cats have. So the same way we drew an almond shape this way, we're going to do it, turn that sideways and draw it on the inside of the eye. All right, I think you're kind of getting a feel for where we're going here. And so cats have a tendency to kind of have this flat top up there, and then it kind of comes down. And then sometimes, depending on the type of cat, it's going to kind of come down like this. And we're going to have some little hairs sticking off there. But because it is a underwater cat, those hairs might be kind of flowing. And I kind of have chubby cats, so I'm going to make this one a little bit chubby. And maybe give it a double chin here. Now, with the paws here, you can now make this overly simplified if you want. Or you can make them extremely detailed. And now that I've got sort of the basic outline of the paw, I'm going to erase those lines right there. So we've got our chubby cat here and got a paw there. So we don't want the arm to go all the way up, because if we do, that is going to kind of make it look a little silly. So we're going to do this. And I'm just going to draw 1, 2, 3 lines. And then over here, because instead of the hand being like this, so it's going to be turned over like this, but it's going to be a cat's paw. So we're not going to be drawing the lines like this. We're going to be flipping it over, and we're going to draw the little pads on its feet, or what some people like to call toe beans. So I'll show you what I mean by that. And then some cats have like a little extra tiny thumb there, which ours do. All right. And I think it's safe to assume she's got some underneath her front paw too. I just thought this would be cute and kind of fun. And I'm going to give her a little bit of a tummy patch like our cats do. And you can let your cat have stripes. You can let your cat have whatever markings you want. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to touch up our ears. So I'm going to draw a line here like that and a line here like so. And just going to draw a few little hairs there, a few little hairs there. All right, so I'm going to draw now a little underwater scene to go with our cat. And you can draw your underwater scene however you want. It doesn't have to be specific. It can be just fun, but I'm going to make some rocks here. Maybe an algae plant. And she might even have like a little fishy friend that she's looking at. And we'll just draw a little almond shape again. And then we'll draw a back fin, a dorsal fin, and a fin underneath. All right. Then I'm going to finish the other end of that rock over here. And I'm going to kind of have some sand crumbling right there. And maybe there's another algae thing over here. And we're gonna do like maybe a little sand castle over here. You can do whatever you want in your background. It doesn't have to be specific at all. I just like to have fun with it and create a little world that this Purr-maid can live in. And there we go. Now I'm going to add a blue wash to the whole thing. I'm going to double check my lines and make sure I've got them where I want them. And the reason why you do this is after you watercolor, typically you can't go back and erase. I know that sometimes with Crayola watercolors you can, so which is nice. But not always, not with all products can you do that. So, but I'm just playing it safe, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to erase some of these lines here. And I'll go back and touch that back up. All right. So now I'm going to go in and add a light blue to the overall piece. So I'm going to be using this color here, just to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to take that out. Let's see if I've got a thicker brush here. Yeah. Here, we'll just add some water to that. And again, know that with watercolor, you can always start with your lightest color and then go back and add your darker colors, because if you add your darker color first, you can't actually go back and make it lighter. It's really hard to do, and very frustrating when you realize that after the fact. So what are you doing? These are twistable. These are really cool. This is something that you can just kind of just gently twist up. You don't want to do a whole lot. You just want to do just a little bit. This way we can see our outline pretty well whenever we start to do our background painting. But it's not going to be outlined in black, which can sometimes be overwhelming for our drawing. There we go. Now we've kind of got an outline established. And that's our little fish that we drew earlier. So I'm just going to draw the outline of it. I'm not really going to go into any major detail with it. I want to use other colors for our detail. Okay, so I kind of want to establish this separate from our middle ground and background. So I'm going to use a little bit of a darker color. I'm going to be using some purples, which will go lovely with our sequins that I have. So right now I'm just following the outlines. Okay, so that was our middle ground. Now for our background, I'm going to be using the darker purple. Now I would like to go ahead and fill in this background area with some paint, our middle ground, and so we've got our background, our middle ground, and then we've got this, which is our foreground. So let's go ahead and get some of the extra paint colors on there, and then we can start filling in detail on our foreground. For our background, I'm going to be using the darker blues and greens, which are these colors right here. This is kind of a nice turquoisey green. That's the best way I can describe it. So for our background, I'm going to be using some of these darker colors. For our middle ground, for foreground, I'm going to be using a combination of some lighter colors to kind of make our Purr-kitten or Purr-maid pop. So here we go. So the darker the color in the background back here is going to help make this stand out, and it's going to help whoever is looking at the illustration to understand that this part back here is further back. So something that I've always learned in grade school was that they call it dark recedes, light proceeds. So dark, when you say recede, it means it goes back. When you say it's light, that means it comes forward. So anything that is a lighter color to whoever is looking at your illustration or your drawing, anything light is going to appear closer, and anything that is dark is going to appear further away. And as you can see, mistakes happen. Like right now. And that's okay, because our Purr-maid is going to be having a shadow on this side. So, and I'll show you that in just a second. All right, so you can kind of see how that works. You can see how our background is pushing into the back and bringing our Purr-maid forth. So for our middle ground, I'm going to choose some other color. I'm going to add some yellow to it, actually some orange. I'm going to go with some of these orange colors right here. And I'm just going to kind of lightly paint that in there. So since we've got our blue as our background, or we've got our lovely greens and purples there, this orange that we're painting over this blue color here, our blue wash that we did over the whole piece, it's going to actually make it look brown because orange and blue are opposite each other on the color wheel. So they're known as complementary colors, which means that when put together, they're going to look nice together. They're going to, they're just going to kind of make everything come together when you put them on your canvas. And also it's going to save us some time in our illustration too. And we're not going to go all the way down with this orange color because we don't want it to, we just want to imply that the sand is there. And also we want to give the impression that it's still underwater. For our castle, I'm going to go with a darker orange. I'm just going to kind of lightly fill that guy in. And I'm not going to, again, I'm not going to go all the way down. I want to imply that this is a structure that is underwater, so you're still going to get the glimpses of the blue popping through. For our front part of our middle ground, I'm going to be using a lighter orange, so I'm going to be using this one. And it's more of a yellow orange, which is just fine. And again, I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm just going to go enough on this side here and back here to kind of give the impression that this is coming forward, this is going back. So this is darker than this, so it's going to go back. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Okay. We need some implication here that there's sand, so we're going to do that. And then I'm going to add a bit of a brighter yellow there. So I'm going to go with this one here, which is just a step lighter than the orange we used earlier. And then I'm gonna go around our Purr-maid there so that it looks like there's a little bit of a shadow, not much, just a little bit. All right. So see how I did a little bit with our shadow there? And I say shadow, it's just enough to imply color on the castle and to imply, again, that that form is there. Well, we're kind of doing the same here, but we're doing it with shadow. So this is kind of a shadow through color. This is going to be a shadow through our blue color here, and I'm just going to make it ever so light. I'm not going to make it dark at all. So to make it lighter, I put just a little bit here on the side of my tray, and I'm going to add more water so that I don't get it so thick that I can't water it down some more. So this paw right here is coming forward. It's coming forward. So what we're going to do is we're just going to send this paw back with a little bit of blue. And I'm going to add some more water so it's not so... There we go. And then I'm going to put a little bit more blue under here so you can see that her head is further forward than her paw. And I'm going to do just a little bit down here on her tummy so that you know this part is back toward the back. Can you kind of see it now? And I'm going to kind of do the same over here. So I'm going to make a little bit of a shadow. And on this one, I'm going to be using lines. I'm going to be using our highlights and leave some space there so it looks like this isn't furry, like this is just kind of wet. All right. So there's our background kind of established. And now I'm going to grab a smaller brush. Yeah, this will work. So remember how I talked about these colors right here, how I thought they would be great for the middle ground? Well, I apologize, I did change my mind because this helps this to kind of pop forward and you kind of understand it a little bit better as an observer, as a viewer. But for her fin here that we're going to be painting, I'm going to use some of these lighter colors. So I'm going to use a light lime green. And we're just gonna kind of do an overall wash like we did with the paint before, but we're gonna do it within the fin. I'm just going to kind of add that green over here to the side. So see how that light kind of pops forward? We kind of want that so it makes her look more rounded. And now I'm going to go through and I'm just going to add some tiny details. I'm going to add some of that darker turquoise that I talked about earlier, right there. And I'm going to add our scales. And I'm just going to kind of spread them. And they're going to get closer together on the thinner parts of her fin, sorry. Okay. And to create that effect, we're just gonna draw little, almost parentheses kind of shapes on her fin. And then we're just gonna kind of thin it out. And you want to leave enough space in between scales. And you want it to sort of fade out the closer you get to her tummy. So you don't want there to be a whole lot of that color, because you want to imply that she's got those scales. You want to imply that there's space in there, that there's some light being shown on these scales. Okay, and now we're going to add a little bit of purple down here to imply the shadow. So she's going to have a little bit of a shadow here and a little bit of shadow here. So see how it kind of comes down through here? We're just going to lightly, ever so lightly, kind of imply that it's there. And we're going to go between the scales for this. And I've got to touch this part up here. Trying to keep it from spreading. Okay, so we're just going to add a little bit more of that purple down here. Not a lot, just a little bit, just enough to kind of give the impression of a shadow there. And what you're going to do is the parts that are lighter, you're just going to go in between those on each one. There we go. So you kind of get a better understanding of her fin and her scales. Okay. And now for her seashell bikini, I'm going to go in and add some purple. For our Purr-maid's eyes, I'd like to do a bright yellow to kind of get our base down, and then we'll go over it with our colored pencils. So I'm going to go with this kind of more golden yellow. And then I'm going to add some pink for her nose. So I'm going to add this color right here. We'll add some detail with our pencils in a bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of pink, just a little bit. So I'm going to water that down. Oops. And I'm going to color in her paw right there. All right, so I'm going to let that dry for a little bit, and then we'll come right back and we will add some more detail. We're going to sharpen up some of these edges here, and we're just going to kind of work with them and get some detail in our eyes and in the fish, and some detail on our seashell bikini. All right, I kind of want to save the eyes for last because that's my favorite part to do. So some of this kind of spread over here. So during the break, I sort of painted around where her mouth would be, the upper part of her mouth, to kind of create that illusion of shadow and the roundness of her mouth there. I'm just going to break out all the pencils. So here we go. For her, I'm going to do the lighter purple. So we're just going to twist up a little bit. These are excellent for conserving your colored pencils. So this is very similar to that light purple color that we used in the Crayola washable crate. I call it a crate, it's just a little carrier. But we're just gonna retrace our outline there. We're not going to go into much detail with this color. So see how it cleared up that edge real nice, and it's a very similar color, so you're not, you know, over exaggerating the outline. You're kind of bringing out the color rather than just saying, here's this shape, here it is. Okay, so I would like to add a little more detail to our Purr-maid's bikini there. So we are going to go with this lovely little pink color, and we're just gonna add some fun highlights to it. So we're gonna kind of do like a half moon shape right here. And we're gonna do it again over here. And we're just gonna do a half moon. And you're not really gonna see a whole lot of the color, just enough to give that idea of there's a highlight there. And then we are gonna go in with our darker purple, and we're gonna kind of do the same on this side, but not as much. A smaller half moon shape. And then I'm gonna draw a darker line there and just kind of shade out a little bit, just a little bit, to give the impression that these shells are on top of the strap. And we're just going to kind of add 1, 2, 3 lines there, 1, 2, 3 lines there, 1, 2, 3 lines there, and 1, 2, 3 lines there. Okay. And for up here, we're going to go back with our light blue. And we're just going to ever so lightly go back over our outline. And I want our cat to be smiling, because why not? And I'm just going to kind of go under here. And cats have a little bit of a lower lip there. And so we want just enough to imply it. And then we just want to ever so lightly come over here and put that there. And I want her to be smiling just because she's a happy cat. Okay, and then we're just gonna lightly go in over here and redraw that line. Emphasize the ears right here. And then now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back in and add the detail with the tummy and with the paws and everything. So we're just gonna lightly trace that, go back in and trace. Okay. And I'm gonna add just a little line right here to imply her chubby chin. And then we're gonna add our details. 1, 2, 3. And if you'd like to make them look more rounded, just very lightly draw those little half moon shapes right there. And then we're gonna lightly trace our paw over here. But we're only going to do the bottom half. So it looks more three-dimensional. Okay. For this fish, I think I would like to do an orange color. So I'm going to go with the yellow orange. And I'm just going to color him in. And then I'm going to use this blue, go back with our light blue, because I accidentally got too much watercolor there. And I'm just going to give him some stripes just for fun. And just do some fun little things like that. And you can make your fish whatever color you want. 1, 2, 3. All right. And then I'm going to go in with our dark purple again. And I'm going to give him an eye. And I'm just going to outline him, add some detail on the bottom here. Okay, you can kind of see how things are starting to take shape. And then with our outline of our Purr-maid, I'm actually going to take this dark purple and go over the darkest parts, or the parts that should be dark, so that our outline matches our shadows. So you want the darker part to be with the shadows, the lighter part to be with our highlights. And I'm going to go around the outside edge of this bikini here. You can see how it's all starting to kind of take shape. I'm just going to do a little bit of that line there, a little bit of that line there. You just do a little bit there to help it kind of stand out. And do the darker side over here. And darker side here and here. So hopefully that's starting to make some sense. And because we've got the shadow down here, we're going to do a darker edge here. And as you can see, I kind of made that a little bit thicker there. And we've got a bit of a shadow. Ooh. We've got a bit of a shadow here. So I'm going to kind of do that. All right. And I think now I'm just going to go back over where I had our little algae pieces and our sea kelp. I'm just going to add just a little bit of detail. I'm not going to do a whole lot. I just want to imply that there's some plants there. I don't want to go too heavy into it because I don't want to take away from our main piece. All right, so for that, I believe I'm going to do some greens. And maybe even this lovely lime yellow. Okay, so I know I said in watercolor you want to start with your lightest color first and then work your way to the darkest, but I feel that with colored pencils, you can kind of take some liberties. It's just one of those things that it's really up to the artist, but I just kind of want to have the outline first, and I use the darker one so I can kind of see it. Okay, and then we've got our little sea kelp over here. It's just implied. It's not really in any great detail. It's just to kind of give the piece some dimension. And now I'm going to go in with our middle color, and I'm just going to kind of scribble some color in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be implied. And I'm just going to do a little bit here. 1, 2, 3. And then for our lighter color, just gonna go on that opposite side there and just do a little bit. One, 2, 3. All right. Okay, and for the eyes, I would like to go more of a golden orangey color. And cats have these lovely rounded eyes. And so I think I'm going to go with the lighter orange and we'll probably wind up using some green in there too. But once we get our color down, we're going to go back in with some detail. So first off, I'm going to be using this orange yellow color. These are more of like a neon, that's a neon, so I'm going to leave that guy out. But so this is with dark orange, middle orange, and bright yellow orange. So I'm going to go with our middle tone first. And I'm just going to kind of follow that curve there and then follow this outline of our cat's pupil. And I'm going to do the same on this side. And you want there to be more color around the pupil, because if you look at cat's eyes, that's kind of how they're set up. And we're going to do the same on this side. So you're going to have more color around the pupil. And since this eye is further away, I'm just going to kind of make that darker all the way around. And now I'm going to go in with our lighter orange, and I'm going to kind of go here just around the edges. Okay. And then this is our darker orange. It's more of a rust color, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to go on the edges here. And then go on the edges of the pupil. Go on the edges here. And go on the edges of the pupil. And maybe just kind of add some more depth and dimension there around the pupil. Okay. And now for the hard part. So we want that to look more rounded. So we're just going to kind of go like this and add some lines, more of our parenthetical lines, our parentheses looking lines. Okay. So this is the one time where I am going to use black because I want the eyes to stand out. So on your pupil, you're going to want to draw a little tiny circle so you know where not to color in. So you're not going to color in that circle, you're just going to color in the pupil. Okay. All right, so next I'm going to grab our Artist's Loft fine tip pen colors, and I'm going to start off with our orange. And I'm just going to lightly trace around the edges there. I'm going to do it again over here. And And notice how I'm not doing it around the entire eye. And that's because I want the eye to stick out. And then I'm just going to add a very light brown mark here and right here. And another one over here, very lightly. And I'm going to go over our black pupils with this. There we go. All right. And I'm going to add just a little bit of, I guess you would call it zhuzh with whiskers. And I'm going to first start off with her whiskers being blue. And I know that sounds a little weird and a little counterintuitive. So this is sort of more the turquoise color. Notice how it's a little bit different than that blue color we've been outlining with. So this is a little bit lighter. And I'm doing this so as not to take away the focus from her eyes. But most cats have these eyebrow whiskers that are up here. And then I'm going to kind of imply them right there. Okay. And then some cats have that little bit of delineation in their fur. That's the best way I can put it, so that you can tell like kind of where their whiskers are coming out of. And I'm just going to kind of go 1, 2. So I'm going to make that middle one the longest, 3, and make the bottom one the shortest. And then since she's in water and it's kind of flowing, I'm just going to 1, 2, 3. All right. And I believe that is where I'm going to leave it for our drawing. Now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to add some sequins and have fun with it. All right, so next I'm going to grab our Artist's Loft fine tip pen colors, and I'm going to start off with our orange. And I'm just going to lightly trace around the edges there. I'm going to do it again over here. And notice how I'm not doing it around the entire eye. And that's because I want the eye to stick out. And then I'm just going to add a very light brown mark here and right here. And another one over here, very lightly. And I'm going to go over our black pupils with this. There we go. All right. And I'm going to add just a little bit of, I guess you would call it zhuzh with whiskers. And I'm going to first start off with her whiskers being blue. And I know that sounds a little weird and a little counterintuitive. So this is sort of more the turquoise color. Notice how it's a little bit different than that blue color we've been outlining with. So this is a little bit lighter. And I'm doing this so as not to take away the focus from her eyes. but most cats have these eyebrow whiskers that are up here. And then I'm gonna kind of imply them right there. Okay. And then some cats have that little bit of delineation in their fur. That's the best way I can put it, so that you can tell like kind of where their whiskers are coming out of. And I'm just gonna kind of go 1, 2. So I'm gonna make that middle one the longest, 3, and make the bottom one the shortest. And then since she's in water and it's kind of flowing, I'm just gonna 1, 2, 3. All right. And I believe that is where I'm going to leave it for our drawing. Now I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna add some sequins and have fun with it. Oh yeah, and I do want to add some highlight to our cat's nose. All right, and as far as our Sharpies go, this is probably the most important part. You've got to put your autograph on it. There we are. All right, thank you for tuning in, and as always, keep practicing. If you liked this, please hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. And if you have any ideas of what you would like to see illustrated, please reach out. I'm thinking in the future, I would like to do one of a dog, but I'm going to do it in a Star Wars theme. So maybe Chewbacca is going to be in our future soon. So just hit me up, let me know what you would like to see drawn, and I will get back with you and I will take your suggestions. Thank you so much.